Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nan Peterson. I'm the Business Relationship Manager for the Charlotte Development Center. Welcome to today's session. This is session 5 of the UDO University UDO Neighborhood Zoning Districts. For some of you, this is a repeat, but we do have some new folks who have joined us today, so we'll just go over some of the meeting protocols. The Charlotte Development Center staff will narrate the presentations. Today's presenter is with our planning team, Solomon Fortune, Commercial Zoning Team Manager. Please feel free to enter any questions or comments in chat. We will be answering the questions during and at the end of the presentation, and also at the end of the session, if time allows, we will answer any additional questions through chat. For today, we will be going through all the questions that are submitted so everybody has an opportunity to hear the question and understand the answer. If a question cannot be answered, we will so note and follow up with a response on the website and reviewed at the next session. Our mission statement for the university is the purpose of the university is to acquaint attendees with the City of Charlotte's requirements and processes affiliated with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance known as the UDO. Comments made at the UDO University sessions are intended to provide guidance and are non-binding on the formal review of the development plans. Just real briefly going over the curriculum of the UDO University, we are 10 sessions. Remember, registration is required for each session. You can register online at the Charlotte UDO portal on the UDO University tab. Sessions will always be held on Friday from 1 to 2:30. All sessions are virtual via Zoom, and they will be recorded and posted on the website the following week. They will be facilitated by various agencies in the Charlotte Development Center, and each session will be built upon information provided in previous sessions. Reminder, all sessions are recorded and again can be found at the website. And again, today we are on session 5, neighborhood zoning districts, and the remaining sessions are listed below. I'm going to turn this over now to Solomon Fortune, who will be handling and facilitating today's session.
Hello, everybody. My name is Solomon Fortune. As mentioned, I am the Commercial Zoning Manager for the City of Charlotte and the Land Development Center. The purpose of this meeting today is to understand the relationship between the neighborhood place types and the neighborhood zoning districts, to explain what happens to the current zoning districts with the adoption of the UDO, and to review the highlights of the UDO Neighborhood 1 and Neighborhood 2 zoning districts, and review the new overlay districts available in the N1 zoning district. If you look in the UDO, if you look into the table of contents in part 3, it'll be neighborhood zoning districts, which falls under Articles 4, which is neighborhood 1 zoning districts N1A all the way through N1F, as you can see on the screen. And then Article 5 is neighborhood 2 zoning districts N2A through N2C. As you know, when we adopted the 2040 comp plan, we set up place types. Think about how we wanted to see the city grow and develop in the future. So typically what happened is we did some for the neighborhood type, place types. We did general titles, which was the one was neighborhood 1. And under neighborhood 1, which falls under Article 4 in the UDO, you can see all the zoning districts that are associated with the neighborhood 1, which again, it's like N1A. You know, it's comparable to R3 in the current ordinance today. N1B is comparable to R4. N1C is comparable to R5. N1D is comparable to R6 / and R8. And N1E is comparable to UR1, which is urban residential 1. And then N1F would be small townhomes or multifamily on arterials. Under neighborhood 2, it relates to N2A, which is townhomes, attached multifamily, and other low intensity residential. N2B is townhomes, multifamily dwellings, and N2C is also multifamily townhome dwellings, getting into a larger context of building and size. Here on this slide, you can see our zoning district translation. Obviously, this slide shows all our districts. You know, these are the by right districts that will translate once the UDO goes into effect on June 1st, 2023. What's highlighted in the red are the the residential districts that we are talking about today. So as mentioned before, you can see which those districts translate through. So if you're looking at this chart, you look at R3 and you look over, it converts to N1A. Just the same way, if you have a by right URC site, it is going to translate to N2C. All those, like I said, once that updates, that would go take effect on June 1st, 2023. Uses in the N1A through N1Z zoning districts. Neighborhood 1 districts, the N1A through N1Z districts allow single family, duplex, and triplex dwellings on all lots, quadruplex dwellings on arterial streets when an affordable housing unit is provided. The N1F district allows all dwelling types allowed in N1A through N1E, small scale townhome and multifamily buildings. The N1 zoning district also allows for select non-residential uses such as places of worship, education facilities, and the reuse of existing neighborhood commercial establishments under prescribed conditions. Here are some of the highlights for the N1A through the N1E districts. So like again, here it is. It would be, again, as mentioned earlier, single family, duplex, and triplex allowed on any lot. A quadruplex allowed on arterial streets when an affordable housing unit is provided. One thing that we have updated the UDO that we're moving away from in the current ordinance is residential density will not be regulated by dwelling units. It's basically going to be everything is governed by your minimum lot sizes for each district, but they do vary by district, but they are the same for all dwelling types. We are now moving away in the currents. We had front, side setbacks, rear setbacks. Basically, now we are basically calling them setbacks, and they do vary by district, but typically they are the same for all types. There is now a maximum height for duplexes and triplexes in established neighborhoods. It's also controlled by the height of nearby dwellings. ADUs will still be allowed on lots with single-family dwelling units. Typically, for some of your townhomes, multifamily, it is only one driveway will be allowed per street frontage. Parking for duplexes, triplexes, and quadruplexes are going to be required to be to the side or the rear of a dwelling. And then we have several new overlay districts that would be available for neighborhoods to use to preserve neighborhood character.
Technical issue.
As you can hear, sorry about that. And here in this next chart, this is kind of showing how the districts compare to the current ordinance and today. So if you go looking at the left, as we talked about the standard in the old current, the corners that we have today, we use density. So like R3 was 3 DUA, which is dwelling units per acre. And then we also use FAR for some of our non-residential uses. So if you look at here in the chart, when you're going across, if you go to the right, you'll see the district, you'll see the compatible district, and then you will see what the minimum lot size is, what any FAR was for their urban residential districts. And then also, as you go down the chart, moving from, as you go left to right, you will see the minimum lot size and the width that was required for each zoning district. And then here, as we get down to the setbacks, obviously remember in the N1 zoning districts, we will still be measuring that right away from that. Well, we measure the setback from the edge of right away. And then we also, which are on locals and local streets and collectors from the edge of right away. And then you will see those, what those setbacks are and how they translate and what they are today. And then you will also see what now will be our rear setback on this chart. One of the new things that we have to make sure that buildings are fitting in with the context of the neighborhood, we have added a maximum building height requirement for all duplex and triplex structures within the neighborhood 1 zoning districts, which shall meet the building height and setback plane regulations below. All duplex and triplex structures are limited to a sidewall height at the required minimum side setback of 12 feet, or the average height of adjacent buildings on both sides of the lot, whichever is greater. Additional building height is granted at a ratio of 1 foot of additional side setback to 1 foot of height, establishing a building height setback plane at 45 degrees. Buildings may not exceed the maximum building heights of the zoning district. And if you look at this district, the side yard here, it will show you your minimum required side setback. The sidewall, which the dimension of this drawing is showing the 12-foot maximum sidewall height. And then it is showing that 45-degree plane angle. So kind of, as I tell people, putting in layman's term, you would kind of draw this tent and your structure would need to fit whatever's proposed underneath that tent. And if it fits inside, typically, as long as it's meeting the other standards in the ordinance, we would be able to review it and approve. And then it gives you some exceptions for like dormers and gables that may extend through the setback plane, kind of showing you that's what the details kind of showing on the plane here on this drawing. Moving on, in the N1 districts, we also have some alternative development options. So under Article 4.5.a, we have a conservation residential development. And then under Article 4.5.b, we have a voluntary mixed income bonus. Conservation residential districts allow for efficient use of land for the preservation of natural resource and ample amenity space for residents of the development. They are permitted in the N1A, N1B, N1C, and N1D districts. The minimum is a 10-acre development size, which allows for a 50% reduction in the minimum lot area and minimum lot width. Additionally, 10% of open space is required in addition to otherwise already required open space, and at least 50% of that open space must be tree safe. For our mixed income residential development, this allows an increase in development and intensity in exchange for the provision of a mixture of affordable and market rate housing units, expanding housing options and opportunities. This overlay may be used in the N1A, N1B, N1C, and N1D districts. Minimum development site of 1 acre allows for development under the standards of the next district of greater intensity. So for example, if you have an N1A site, it would allow you to use N1B standards, N1B, you would allow N1C, and so forth as you see on the development. 50% of the additional units allowed by the bonus must be set aside for households earning 80% of area median income, which sometimes you'll see noted as AMI in parentheses. And of those units, a minimum of 2 of the affordable units as part of the mixed income development must be set aside for affordable housing. Going into some other overlay districts, the following are optional overlay districts that may be used in the N1A, N1B, N1C, N1D, and N1E zoning districts. Under Article 14.2, there's the neighborhood character overlay. Article 14.3, there's the residential infill overlay district. And then Article 14.4, cottage court overlay district. And below you can see the NC, the RIO, and then CC, which would show up on the zoning maps if those were approved. The neighborhood character overlay district, we will go over the purpose, the applicability, eligibility, standards for the district, the approval process, and existing structures. The purpose. The neighborhood character overlay district establishes regulations to preserve the existing character of a neighborhood and enhance its unique natural and architectural resources while helping to foster compatible development within neighborhoods. Applicability. A district may only be applied to the districts that you see here. Once the district is established, all new residential construction, addition, changes, expansions, and alterations to existing structures shall comply with the standards of the neighborhood character plan, which that has been adopted with the NCO district. Eligibility. A majority of the properties in the district shall share one or more of the following criteria, thereby creating a cohesive and distinctive setting, character, or association. A, consistency in scale, proportion, and rhythm. This includes similarities, features such as lot width, building height, front facade width, ground floor elevation, as well as the relationship of building massing and spacing as established by setbacks and placements of the structures on the lot. The next one, similarity in disposition of on-site elements such as vehicle parking, landscape or tree safe areas, and accessory structures. In addition to the item 1 above, the district shall meet the following standards. The designated area shall be a minimum of 1 block face and include all lots located within the block face. The general pattern of development, including streets, lots, and buildings for the proposed overlay district was established at least 25 years prior to the date of consideration for the district designation. A minimum of 75% of the lots within the proposed overlay district are developed. A district may not be applied over any lots zoned the historic overlay district. Standards for the neighborhood character overlay district. Residential development standards. The following standards may be modified within or added to a specific NCO district's neighborhood character plan, where no alternative standards are specified in the character plan. Those of the underlying district apply. So some of the site stuff that you can, the district stuff that you can modify would be lot area, minimum or maximum lot width or lot frontage, minimum or maximum setbacks, maximum height for principal and accessory buildings, maximum building coverage, surface parking, total square footage and location, enhanced tree planting / protection standards. For the non-residential developments in those districts, non-residential development allowed by the district are exempt from NCO district standards and are subject to the underlying districts. 3, the uses allowed in the underlying zoning district are the only uses that can be allowed. Through here, this is the process in which someone, if a neighborhood chooses to go through this character overlay district, they would make a request to initiate the character plan process. Then there would be a determinant of eligibility. There would be a public info meeting for eligibility. Then there is a design for the neighborhood character plan. Then there is a public info meeting for the proposed character plan. And then there is a petition for a map amendment. And a map amendment is just going through that rezoning process to establish the overlay. And then the map amendment and character plan is adopted which is going through that city council adoption process. The RIO, the Residential Overlay District, facilitates residential infill development in the N1 districts. The purpose of the district is to maintain and complement existing neighborhood pattern and scale through specific controls addressing height, dwelling unit, and size. For this overlay, you must have 50 contiguous lots. This plan can be initiated by a majority vote of the city council or 60% of the property owners within the designated geographical area. The overlay district can be used in any N1A through N1E zoning districts. Again, with the residential infill overlay district, you will still have the building sidewall height limited to the greater of the following: 12 feet or average sidewall height of adjacent building sidewalls. You can have a building height increased 1 foot of additional height for 1 foot of setback up to the maximum height in the district. Provisions for dormers, gables, and gable ends. Maximum building size, the total heated square footage allowed to be the greater of the average square footage for single family structures on the block face and the block face across the street. 800 square feet per unit in the proposed building. Single family dwelling units are allowed to exceed a maximum building size of an additional 25%. Cottage court overlay. The overlay district, this overlay district can be applied to any neighborhood 1 district except N1F. This district allows for single family, duplex, and triplex dwellings. Additional use such as common facilities are allowed. The minimum development must consist of 4 residential buildings. The total lot area required is 50% of the lot area of the underlying districts. Individual lots or building sites do not have to meet lot size, lot width, setback, or building coverage standards. Dwellings must front on a public street or around a centrally located common open space. The minimum common open space is 3,000 square feet or 500 square feet per unit, whichever is greater, with a 50-foot minimum width. Small unit bonus, 25% increase in residential buildings up to 5 buildings if all dwellings are 800 square feet or less. And this is approved as a standard zoning map amendment, which means you have to go through that, it'd be that public hearing and council member approval. Other articles that you want to be mindful of and manuals that are not in the UDO that apply. This is now you're starting to see how from the other meetings, how these all start coming together. These are the different pieces of the UDO that allow you for development. So you want to look at Articles 15 through 22 for your uses and development standards. Article 20 is your trees and screening and buffers, or landscape yards as we're calling them now. Articles 23 to 28 would be your stormwater, and then Articles 29 to 34 would be your SSI, which is streets, subdivision, and some of the requirements possibly made by CATs. And sometimes some of the other documents, especially when you're looking at this, when you're trying to find your street types, you want to go to your streets map, which is also the Charlotte streets map, and then which has your frontages, and it tells you the type of street it is, your land development standards manual, your place type maps, and then there are several various other administrative manuals that are being created through this process with the UDO. Moving on to neighborhood 2 zoning districts. Neighborhood 2 zoning districts are intended to accommodate a mix of moderate to high intensity residential development types, may also serve as a transition between less intense residential development and higher mixed use centers. The dwelling types permitted would be multifamily dwellings, townhouse dwellings, lower intensity dwellings, which would be single family, duplex, and triplex and quadruplex, also allowed within the N2A zoning district or as components of a multi-dwelling development in the N2B district. The neighborhood 2 zoning district also allows for select non-residential uses such as religious institutions, educational facilities, neighborhood commercial establishment, and limited mixed-use development. The N2 district's highlights. Again, it's intended to accommodate a mixture of moderate to high intensity residential development types, may also serve as a transition between less intense residential development and higher intensity mixed use centers. There are maximum building lengths. Townhomes and multifamily attached are limited to 8 units per building, 6 if adjacent to neighborhood 1 place type. There are building design requirements, including articulation, minimum ground floor height, transparency, and entrances. There are build 2 zones, which are BTZ, and N2C zoning district. There is a development bonus options in the N2C, and then there is open space required for all uses. 10% of lot area for multifamily stacked, 250 square feet per unit for townhomes and multifamily attached in N2A, and then it's 150 square feet for townhomes and multifamily attached in N2B and N2C. Again, as mentioned before, some of the development standards that you'll be mindful you want to pay attention to when going through the ordinance and design will be obviously your frontages, setbacks. Frontages, again, as mentioned earlier, and on a later slide, you will find that under the Charlotte streets map. And then you will also find the classification of the street in the streets manual. Then there's height, there's design and facade, sidewalks, driveway, open space, and other items that are listed in the UDO for the development of those uses. Again, this slide that was mentioned earlier, there are some related ones that you need to look at. Obviously, again, your uses, Article 15 through 22, trees, stormwater, streets, and then again, the documents outside, which would be, again, the streets map, land development standards manual, your place type map, your various administrative manuals that will govern how we do some of the bonus structure and how those processes will be handled by the city going forward with the UDO. Obviously, you can visit the UDO website. You can register for UDO sessions. There's a link to an email for submitting UDO questions. There's also a link to the supporting documents that I have mentioned through this presentation. Again, within the UDO, there are several, and there are also some technical standards. The supporting documents are listed by subject area. The 4 subject areas of the Charlotte UDO are zoning, stormwater, subdivision, streets, and other infrastructure and UDO administration. Supporting documentation is in the process of being updated to incorporate UDO. Staff is meeting on that on a weekly basis to provide those documents and have those ready, hopefully before the UDO goes online. But again, we are working on those. Again, here's our website. There's charlotteudo.org. There's the UDO University, which you'll be allowed to, again, register for future sessions coming up. Again, this is our general mailbox question. The mailbox question is, it is monitored Monday through Friday. We try to answer questions as fast as we can. Obviously, there are questions that we do have to go through and vet because, again, there are some specific site questions that we all staff has to sit down. And as I've mentioned in previous presentations. Staff is also still dealing with the current projects that are going on. So sometimes we are juggling, answering questions and balancing that workload. Again, there's also the website for supporting documents. That concludes my presentation for today. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for your time. I know it takes a lot out of everybody's busy and we appreciate this time. Going forth now, we will try to answer all the questions that we have going forth. So 1 second.
There, chat. There we go. Okay.
So it says, do you mean one driveway per townhome unit or one for the group? I believe right now, Walter, it is one for the group.
I believe that one's been answered in the chat.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks, Matthew.
What's the difference between townhomes, quadruplex, and multifamily attached? Actually, it is those definitions are in actually Article 2. There, we also
Answered in the chat.
Okay.
Why don't you read it and then see if they, yeah.
When will the updated zoning GIS layers be available? Our GIS people are currently working on that as we speak. Obviously, they will have the updated GIS layer for the UDO when the translations, once that June 1st date and the UDO goes active. The next question is, what is the setback now for ADUs? Does it change as part of a garage? Yes, it does change as part of a garage. It's actually in chapter 12 of the current zoning ordinance, and unfortunately, I just don't have that on me to give you those exact, but it's based upon, it's based upon your height requirements, depending upon your height, and then also the sides, because if it's over a certain height, you then have to push it in to meet those side yard requirements of the district. There's also a square footage based upon the size of the principal structure of the house that you can have for an ADU. Stephen, once we get back to our desk, if someone in the chat can provide me his email, I will give him that exact section in the current code. When someone says, is there a density for N2B for multifamily SAC? No, we are moving away from density. Basically, think of it as you would have your lot. It's kind of like, again, if you can fit under the 10.
Hey, Solomon, it was answered in the chat.
Okay. Alan answered it. Someone said, I heard that the UDO is going to start restricting eaves from encroaching into side yard setbacks, but I don't see anything in the text that indicates that this is now being regulated. Can you confirm? Sam will actually, has anybody answered that? I think we have to follow up with that because
no, Solomon, I did answer that in the chat.
Okay. Have there been official changes to the text amendments? The copy of the UDO I have been reading says conservation subject to a minimum 2 acres, not 10. I believe, yes, there was changes when we got it adopted, and there is a process of a text amendment going on now. To find out the status of the text amendment, you'll want to reach out to Laura Harmon.
Solomon, again, that was in the adopted UDO, it was 2 acres minimum. That was changed before
Okay.
UDO was adopted.
So Alan's response was multifamily dwelling attached units design reference for the multifamily residential structure design with primary side-by-side dwelling units with each an individual entry. Dwelling quadruplex, a structure containing 4 dwelling units. Dwelling townhome, a structure consisting of 5 or more dwelling units. The interior, which is configured in a manner such that the dwelling units are attached horizontally, separated by a party wall, and each is located on a separate sublot. And then to the other question, it says no density requirements for the N2B or any other N1 or N2 district. And then it says if a neighborhood decides to pursue the NCO, can an individual parcels exempt themselves? Does the neighborhood need a majority consent to apply for this?
And
This is answered in the chat.
Okay. The answer to the previous question, it says per table 18.1 in the UDO, eaves can extend 3 feet into a side setback. And then it says, so a duplex can only have one driveway and parking must be Eddie Moore. So a duplex can only have one driveway and a parking must be to the side or rear of the dwelling in an N1 zoning district. How does this work for non-rear loaded streets? Also, can a duplex and triplex lots in N1A be a total of 50 feet wide and 5,000 square feet per the conservation residential development option?
Alan's answer.
Al, did anybody answer that one?
Well, yeah, Solomon, I want to clarify, we're going to clarify that a duplex may have more than one driveway, but we do have a standard that limits the amount of the lot width that can be taken up by driveways. And that is currently found on page 19-18 of the UDO. So single family and duplexes may have more than one driveway, as long as the total width of the driveway doesn't exceed a certain width or a certain percentage of the lot width.
All right. And then there was a clarification. I think I said the wrong thing on our slide. It says the adopted UDO does have a minimum of 2 acres for a conservation residential development. And it says, so a triplex cannot have front-loaded garages, each with a driveway 20 feet deep. I believe I'd have to go follow up on that. I believe we are changing some of those standards. Can we share the site to look up street types? Yes, we can. If someone wouldn't mind putting that in the chat. And then Alan responded, it says a map amendment for the NCO district may be initiated. It says by a majority vote of city council to initiate a map amendment or by a petition signed by property owners representing at least 51% of the land area and at least 51% of the lots within the proposed district. The approval requires a vote by city council for a zoning map amendment. Individual lots within the boundary of the NCO cannot opt out. A triplex may not have a front-loaded driveway. It can have a driveway that leads to parking to the side or rear. Understand residential uses are allowed in other districts as well. Do the standards refer you back to N1 or N2 standards, or do residential uses and other districts have their own standards? I would have John, I believe it would be whatever's based on that use chart, and then it's going to be based on that district. If it doesn't make a reference back, that is something. If there is something we may have to clear up, make a request and then propose one of the next upcoming text amendments. He knew in it says is the 400 square foot private open space requirement still applicable for townhomes for sale? If yes, where I can find that provision. I do not believe that is part of it here. I think we've gone to something different. We're moving away from that. You mentioned a 12-foot sidewall for duplexes. I thought it was going to be 20 feet. Alan, is it still 12 or did we update it to 20? Because I thought it was still 12.
No, it was 20 feet in the adopted UDO, so we changed that before the UDO was adopted.
Okay.
That's fine.
It says into the height restriction of 200 feet. I see that it doesn't apply to parcels across from a park of 3 acres. Does this apply across roads? I will have to go and follow up on that one. I'm not sure. And then the next one is thanks. I have the current code regarding ADUs. It seemed that the new UDO is different. It looked to me today the setback was changed from 15 feet to 30 feet, but maybe I misunderstood. Currently, I think 5 in a garage. Not sure about that. Again, we'll have to follow. We will follow up with you on that one because I know again, if you're referring to today's code, there is some different requirements depending upon the type of structure you're building, and we will follow up with that. The next one from Daniel, it says, "Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Lyles, and I specialize in small infill developments, including multifamily and converting single-family homes to multifamily. My area has zoning laws similar to UDO for years. Would love to connect with people looking to do similar projects. Instagram at Lyles Invest or Daniel." And someone was thanking us for reading it out loud, and we'll do that. It says, "Will these standards apply to new construction that begins but is not finished before the UDO?" No, if you have permits before, you would be building off the permits you have time at the time you received approval. And then the next question is, in the N1A, for example, a triplex can be put on a lot and will have sublots. Are there minimum dimension requirements for the sublots? No, there is not. Currently, there is not. That would be up to you, the probably the person selling the land or the developer. That looks like that's all the questions we had in the chat right now.
Are there any additional questions anyone would like to type in? Please feel free. So it looks like we do have one new one. You
said, with these questions, can you provide us with a sense of overall goal from the city's viewpoint? With the changes, I guess to answer your question is, the overall point was we knew the ordinance that we're currently using was adopted in 1992. As throughout time, that's within 30 years, the city has grown and changed. We know, think about it, is in 92, I tell everybody, the city was a suburban city. We are now converted, we are becoming more urban, and we know that land is becoming, it's at a premium right now. So it's kind of, we've decided to say, hey, as part of that, and some of the development trends, we decided that, smaller lots, people are going to that. So overall, what we're trying to provide is we're trying to provide a variety of housing types in neighborhoods and throughout the city. And that's the intent. Obviously, in your suburban areas, you're probably still going to see the kind of standard traditional suburban layout. But obviously in the infill and the internal parts of the city, we would expect to see that we are going to see more density. And obviously around our transit stations, we would expect to see higher density in those areas, providing more walkability, different types of mobility patterns. The intent of the UDO, said the UDO was just to update and try to modify our standards.
And also the city adopted in 2021, the comprehensive plan, which was the future vision of how the city wanted to grow. And the UDO helps give the rules, the regulations in order to fulfill those goals in the policy that was established in the 2040 plan. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, and then it looks like there was one. And there was one more. It looks like it says open space requirements in N1. I guess it would depend upon what you're developing, but yes, you would have some open space requirements. Obviously.
Yeah. Solomon, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on that one. There are some instances in neighborhood 1 where you would have an open space requirement. But for your N1A through N1E for residential, you would not.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
And then do we get a UDO diploma once completed with these 10 to 12 intense working sessions, or at least PhDs? We'll see about that. I'm not sure if that's in the budget, but we can try to work with you on that one. Hey. Open, I think he was referring to N1A districts. I believe Alan answered that one with his comment. And then e-certificates would be nice. Well, like I said, we'll see if we can get someone to work on those. And then I don't see anything.
Hey, Solomon,
Yes.
this is Matt. We do have Walter Fields with his hand raised waiting to.
Yeah, we just saw that. Thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Thanks, Matt, for seeing me waving over here. Solomon, real quick, I've been listening very carefully to the whole issue about driveways and different types of dwellings and so on and so forth. And I'm a little bit confused. I thought I heard you say that if you had a group of townhomes, they could only have one driveway, which to me means they then have to have an entire parking lot and all their maneuvering is behind whatever the setback there is, and actually would be more impervious cover so you can back out of a garage into a 4-bay and then pull out into the street as opposed to just backing straight out to the street in a conventional configuration. Then I heard Alan say that duplexes could have individual driveways. And then I think there was another follow-up comment later about triplexes, and there was some uncertainty about those. My general observation would be it'd be nice if that wasn't quite so complex. I mean, that seems to be, and maybe in the text it's much more straightforward. But I would observe that if in a small group of townhomes, you can drive 20 feet into the site, and then you have to have essentially a parking lot area and then the townhomes, which actually requires a larger piece of property. So in terms of the whole notion of, we're becoming more urban, if we change our requirements that effectively makes you use more land to accommodate the same housing unit, I'm not sure how that's happening. Same thing with the notion of parking for a triplex where you would park, you drive onto the site with one driveway but then you'd have to park on the side of the building. That requires a wider lot, a larger lot. So some of these driveway things, in my mind, listening to you guys explain them, translates into some confusion about sort of what the rules really are going to be. And secondly, don't those rules in fact result in, despite the fact that we say we have smaller lots now, that in fact a car is the same size of a car and a townhome pad is the same size as a pad. And if you can't maneuver in the setback that you create by saying you only have one driveway, you end up using more land for the same number of units. And I'll stop right there and see if that makes any sense. Thank you.
So I guess Walter already said, was that a question or a statement?
Well, it's a statement by way of a question, because there were a series of questions about driveways, and when I listened to the answers, I got several different variations on the theme, and I didn't really get a clear answer to some of those questions. And the comment is, it appears that those things, if I understood them correctly, result in having to use a larger piece of property, more land, either wider or deeper, to accommodate the same number of units if they can't have individual driveways. I guess that's sort of how I would summarize that.
No problem. We can follow up with you on that one, Walter.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, you need me to do anything? Like turn this off or anything?
Yes. Go
Hi
ahead.
there.
Daniel.
I just got a quick question for you, just in regards to the city's appetite for minor variances. Just give you a quick example. If I had a lot that had a 78-foot frontage that fell in the new 40-foot lot zone, and I was a little deficient on let's say area or frontage, there are minor variances a possibility to make some infill lots work.
I guess to say the UDO allows you to apply for a variance, you typically have to show the hardship to the board. But that's in the administration articles about the variance process.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And then it looks like we have someone that says the parking requirements are a direct contradiction to building affordable housing. Diane, we will have to follow up with you about the parking requirements, because again, I know they're still, I think it's possible as a text message, they're looking into that, but I believe as part of the UDO process, those parking requirements were vetted.
Are there any additional questions that anyone would like to put in the chat? Or we think we covered them all, but let us know if we have not. Okay.
All right, if we're not, so I was waiting to make sure someone didn't come in. Looks like someone.
How does affordable housing?
How does affordable someone asked, how does affordable housing fit into this plan? We've provided, I mean, there are several options that are provided for density bonuses, not density, but I'm sorry, bonuses for affordable housing. There are some overlay districts, there's a mix of, so there's several, there's much more options that exist with the UDO than exist in the current ordinance.
Well, if questions arrive after this presentation, please feel free to go to our the portal, because there is an ask question direct link into our email box that you can do it. And I think we do have another question. In the 5 to 7 foot apron off private streets still in effect?
We will have to follow up with you with CDOT to see if that's still in effect. So Michael, we will follow back up with you on that one. All right, if I'm looking to see if there's nothing else. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day. And for those of you who said we will follow up next week with some clarifications to your questions. Thank you for your time, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.